Oops. Oh, the problem with the setup here. Hold on a second. Let me make sure it's streaming properly. Yep, it's streaming. Okay, we are ready to go. Well, actually, I have to send a notice out. BK Goswami. All right, notice sent out. We are ready to go. We should chant. Let's pick a nice song. Of course, all the songs are nice for Krishna. All right, we did that one. Bhajan Rahasya. Ooh, that's a nice one. Let's see. Oh, whoops. All right, here's one of my favorites. Lala Samayi Prarthana by Narottam Das Thakur. Samayi means hankering, but hankering for devotional service. Okay. Let's start out. Goranga Bonitayale Polakachari Ati Ate Bolite Yane Mabeliu Goranga Bonitayale Polakachari Oy vea tutti Rasha Pratana Kore Satana Nanutamatas Rupa Nathapade Rahoma Raja Pratana Kore Satana Nanutamatas Gorang Kavite Happy Polaka Sharir Hari Day Muli Day Nayan Day Malinir Gorang Kavite Happy Polaka Sharir Hari Day Muli Day Nayan Day Malinir Haribo, 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare, Rama 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 Hare, Hare Krishna, Shri Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Paramacharya All Sutera Sutashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Marshila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaisnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shaima Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturam Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Munamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaura Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Budale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurani Pacharni Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Teja Tarni. So let us read this poem by Narottam Das Thakur. This poem, Samayi Prarthana, is how we should feel and approach the chanting of the holy name. Hankering for advancement, a higher stage of chanting, especially for the stage of bhava at this particular point. So the translation is as follows. When will that opportune moment come to me when I shiver upon chanting the name of Lord Gauranga? When will I cry while chanting Hare Krishna? When will I receive the causeless mercy of Lord Nityananda, so that my desires for material enjoyment become insignificant? When will my mind be purified of material anxieties and desires, so they can understand Vrindavan? When shall I be very eager to study the books left by the six Goswamis, so they can understand the conjugal love of Radha and Krishna? The lotus feet of the six Goswamis are my only shelter. In constant separation from them, I remain Narottamadas. Narottamadas Thakur Ki Jai. So today, without further ado, we're going to continue our study of the Bhajan Rahasya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And for those of you who are just joining us, the Bhajan Rahasya is a book that details the different connections Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtaka has with the times of the day, in Krishna's day, not our day, and also with the stages of advancement in devotional service and the corresponding symptoms of the different stages, whether one at a particular stage is free from anarthas or not free or absolutely free or mostly free or completely free. There's a difference, and we're going to get into that. So let's continue. Om Ganat Miranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Unmeritam Yena Tasmai Shigadve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who kindly opened my eyes with a torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Okay. Let me find it. Oh, see, it has to be one of the windows I have open, I'm pretty sure. Here it is. And we will share the screen. Right, there we go. And let me move this to the side. Got it. Okay. As I mentioned, we are talking about the stages of bhakti. Okay. And again, the verse, I'm not going to read this. I actually can read the Sanskrit. It's really quick. Ado shradata sadhu sangoto bhajana kriyata ho nartanabriti shatato nishtad uchistata ata shakti stato bhavas tata prema danjati sadakana mayam premna pradabhave bhavet kramaha. I'll make that a little bit bigger for all of us. There we go. It'll be easy to read if you're looking at a mobile phone. That's good. And the translation is, these are the stages that we all are going through, or hopefully going through. First, there's association with devotees, by which one gains faith, and one associates with the devotees to learn the scriptures, and then practices bhakti. The anarthas, that's unwanted things like lust, anger, greed, illusion, envy, fear, are then destroyed. Steady bhakti without confusion follows, nishta. Desire for the Lord, ruchi, appears, it means having a taste for those things that are connected with the Lord. This is followed by spontaneous desire for the Lord, asakti. This becomes bhava, emotions, extreme emotions, and then prema. This is the progression for manifesting prema for those performing sadhana bhakti. And I'm going to read the explanation. Faith arises from sukritis rooted in bhakti. I got to explain that. Sukriti means basically good activities, or sometimes it's described as pious activities. But in this particular case, ordinary pious activities don't lead you to bhakti. So sometimes what leads you to bhakti is something called agyata, sukriti, which means you're doing some devotional sukriti without knowing it, or a devotee engages you in some devotional sukriti without knowing it. For example, if you go to the hotel chain named Ramada Inn, then you're chanting the name of Ram without knowing it. Or even Valmiki, before he was Valmiki, he was chanting Mara, 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 and it became Ram, 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 and then that was Sukriti, Agyata Sukriti in the beginning. So that may be in certain cases. And in other cases, we may do things deliberately, devotional Sukriti, and then faith comes from those activities, from service. Okay? Because chanting is also service. When faith manifests, one easily attains the association of devotees. Devotee shows up. Teaching on bhajana occurs as a result of association with devotees. In other words, teachings. When you associate with devotees, then you hear about the process, devotional service, and then you begin to partake of that process. And part of partaking in the process is go through the different processes mentioned in the Nectar of Devotion, like taking shelter of a spiritual master, taking instruction from him, taking initiation by him. By repeated bhajana, which means basically at this point sadhana bhakti, and primarily Vaidhi bhakti, anarthas are destroyed. Again, the anarthas, primary anarthas, are lust, that's kama, anger, that's anger, greed, illusion, envy, fear, bewilderment. When the anarthas diminish, not when they're completely gone, but even before they're completely gone, then you become steady. Nishta appears. The more one is steady in the name, that means in the chanting, the more the anarthas are destroyed. The more one is steady in terms of chanting, not only 116 rounds, but 16 rounds with attention, with devotion, and also outside of chanting your 16 rounds, you always have the holy name on the tip of your tongue, on your lips. Like when I was with Srila Prabhupada, I could see that he was chanting basically every minute, even when someone else was talking to him. Gradually, ruchi means having a taste or attraction for the name manifests. When anarthas are further destroyed, by chanting with ruchi, the devotee attains asakti, means complete attachment for the name and detachment from the material world. When all anarthas are destroyed by chanting in asakti, bhava appears for certain. And as we'll find out later, even when all the anarthas are destroyed, they're not absolutely destroyed. They can come back if you're not careful. And here's one of the things you got to be really careful of. Kuti nati. If one's desire for fame arises because of bad association, one becomes degraded with kuti nati, deception. Oh, brother, be very careful to avoid bad association and chant the name with great bliss constantly. So kuti nati, sometimes devotees translate this as fault finding. So let's analyze this word, kuti nati. Okay? It's actually quite easy to analyze. Ku means bad. Like ku karma means bad karma. Got it? Or bad activities. So ku and nati means negative or negation. So any bad activities, or I'm sorry, any bad things that are based upon negativity is what kuti nati is. So kuti nati, which means like when one fault finds or sees the bad thing that's happening, that's kuti nati. One tries to be political. Sometimes Prabhupada would translate the word kuti nati as devious political behavior, or what's described here as deception. Mm. So, what else was I? Oh, yeah. Let's see. Kuti nati. Okay. If one has something that happens to you and you blame the immediate cause without seeing Krishna behind it, that's kuti nati. You're deceiving yourself. So you see someone like Prahlad Maharaj, who never blamed his father Hiranyakashipu. He always saw Krishna behind everything. And that is Yomam Pashati Sarvatra. Sarvam Chamai Pashati. Tashaham na pranashami, sachame na pranashati. 6:30 in the Gita. Once you see Krishna in everything, you see Krishna everywhere. So in order to avoid this negativity, so this, going with the second part of the word, nati, negativity, bad thing, it's like saying the same thing twice, bad, negative. Then one has to avoid bad association, because when you associate with those who are fault finders, then you become a fault finder. And here's a quote from the Kachiyana Samhita. Ramuta Vahadwala Panjaranta Vyavastite Nashari Chinta Vimuka Jana Sangvasa Vaishasam. It is preferable to remain within a cage of blazing fire than to have the misfortune of living in the association with persons who are opposed to thinking of the Lord. Now, actually, there's two types of persons, at least two types of persons this verse is referring to. Those who are actually just like blasphemers and don't want anything to do, they're atheists or something like that, or those who engage in sinful activities. And then also those who are ostensibly dressed like devotees, but they're opposed to thinking like devotees. In other words, they're fault finders. Again, fault finders. They're always looking for, as Prabhupada said, the stool. Like they're thinking they're like little flies looking for the stool, rather than the honeybee who is looking for the nectar, and he makes honey. Honeybee's not looking for honey. The honeybee is looking for the pollen, which he utilizes to make nectar for the queen. Here's another interesting quote from the Vishnu Rahasya. Alinganam varam manye vyala vyagra jalokasam dasanga shalya yuktanam nana devaika sevinam. Excuse me. I consider it preferable to embrace a snake, a tiger, or a crocodile than to associate with those who worship devatas. They are sprayers of spears piercing me with their deviant desires. So those of you engaged in demigod worship, this is from the Vishnu's Rahasya. Now, if you can worship the devatas as parts and parcels of Krishna, who are servants of Krishna, we respect them. You put them on a lower level on the altar, then that is fine. But of course, there's this interesting verse. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahmarudradi Daivata Samittenaiva Viksheta Sapashandi Bhavetruvam. One who thinks that the demigods, like Brahma and Shiva and others, are equal to Narayan, then that person becomes a Pashandi, which means an atheist, an absolute atheist. If you think there's many gods, that means there's no God. So here's a quote from the Padma Purana. Tam nirvyajam bhajakuna nidhe pavanam pavananam shradarajam atir atitaram utamashloka maulim prodyanata karanaku hare hantayannam abanor abaso pikshapayati mahapataka dvanta rasim. With intellect purified by faith and all sincerity, please intently worship Krishna, an ocean of good qualities, whose glory destroys all darkness. He purifies those who purify others. When just the semblance of his name, that's Namabas, appears in the heart, it destroys the greatest accumulation of sins, just as the light prior to the rising of the sun destroys all darkness. That's from the Padma Purana. Of course, most of you know, Namabas means to chant accidentally or meaning something else or in a teasing way or in a joking way. Oh, anyway, there's different types of Namabas. So even when, it means also without offense. When Namabas is done by someone, even accidental, meaning something else, then all your bad karma becomes dissipated. Worship the lotus feet of Krishna, the supreme purifier, with sincere faith. When his name enters the heart, it destroys great sins, just as the abhav of the sun destroys darkness. So it's just like a reflection of the sun, or the sun peering over the horizon, or before the sun peers over the horizon, all darkness is destroyed, even before the sun rises. The pastimes of Krishna are not within the Shikshashtaka. By Bhajan using these verses, the pastimes will gradually appear. I'm going to repeat that. By Bhajan using the verses of the Shikshashtaka, I added that, the pastimes of Krishna will gradually appear in your heart. Here Bhaktivinoda is giving us a prescription. First, meditate on the first verse for some days. In other words, you should spend meditation on the first verse of the Shikshashtaka for some days. Then with the second verse, should become expert. In other words, you should become expert. Nam Namakari Bahudad Nija Sarva Shaktish, etc. On the second verse. Meditate on the verse. That's really an important instruction. So you meditate on the first verse. Cheto Darpanamajam. With the first 4 verses, one should make the bhajan mature. With the 5th verse, one should choose a siddha deha. Not right now, Prabhu. Starting to take shelter of Radha's lotus feet in that body, by this verse, one gradually advances. Meditating on the 6th verse, the anarthas are further destroyed. Then we're going to go over all this. Then one becomes fully qualified for the siddha deha. If without qualification one meditates on one siddha deha, opposite mentality will arise. Well, there's a question with editing here. An opposite mentality will arise due to lack of Shakti. Shakti means spiritual potency. If one desires perfection, follow the proper sequence carefully. Because every day we recite all the Shikshashika prayers, not just the ones that pertain to our level of Krishna consciousness, but we should concentrate as we advance on different Shikshashika prayers. If one desires perfection, follow the proper sequence carefully. Observing the character of the devotees, devotees become pure. Observing the character of the devotees, one becomes of pure intelligence. When on receiving a siddha deha, one meditates, one will easily attain joyous service during the 8 parts of the day. In other words, when you get to the point of understanding your eternal spiritual body, then the 8 different parts of Krishna's day, the Ashtakala Lila, as well as the 8 different parts of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's day, that's Chaitanya Ashtaka Lila, will be easy to meditate on, and they'll manifest in your heart. Meditate on Shikshashtika while performing Smarana and Kirtan. Smarana means remembrance. In other words, throughout the day when you're meditating, let's say on the first verse, which we're going to go over in a second, you try to remember that verse. Cheto Darpanam Arshanam. The heart becomes cleansed. So we're going to go over this in a second. And the blazing fire of material existence becomes extinguished. Anyway, also, we find in the first verse of the Guruvashtaka a similar statement. You could probably even correspond different verses of the Guruvashtaka with different stages in devotional service, although I have never done that. So, samsara dhavana loka. The material world is like a blazing forest fire, but the spiritual master extinguishes that blazing forest fire with the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in the same way, Cheto Darpanam Arjanam, that the mirror of the mind becomes cleansed, and the chanting of the holy name extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence. We're going to go over this in a second. So, meditate on Shikshashika while performing Smarana and Kirtana. Kirtana, of course, is the loud chanting of Krishna consciousness, of the holy name. Like when you're doing Kirtan, you can actually meditate, but it's medication also. You can actually meditate on the different verses, beginning with the first verse. Yes, I'm cleansing my heart. Because many times when we're doing Kirtan, we just concentrate either on the rhythm or on the melody or on just working ourselves into a sweat. Sorry about that one. Just like we just try to enjoy in an external sense. But this gives us something to think about while we're chanting. You know, for example, we're chanting the first verse that of the Shikshashika. You know, we're doing Kirtan, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. And we're just thinking about how our life is becoming auspicious. The ocean of spiritual ecstasy. I mean, this is really nice to think like that. And that way, you're not only connecting with the potency of the holy name, but you're connecting with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, by whose mercy you're enabled to chant the holy name. Okay, now we're going to start with the first verse in the Shikshashika. And this is, let's see, the translation here is actually very similar to the translation that Prabhupada gives in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chetodharpanamarjam Bhava Mahadvagninirapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitarna Vijavada Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Svadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Puram Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So the translation is, all glories to Shri Krishna Sankirtana. It cleanses the mirror of the mind. It extinguishes the blazing conflagration. And of course, I talked before about the forest fire in the first verse of the Shikshashtaka. Blazing conflagration. That's actually even more picturesque than forest fire or fire. Of material life. Whew. Material life is like a blazing fire. Wow. Just like recently we had, in America, we had these blazing fires in Los Angeles and other parts of California. And they were threatening to engulf basically the whole city of Los Angeles. You know, fortunately for them, they had some rain and the firefighters were successful. So it's like that. We may be living very comfortably, like those people in Los Angeles were living very comfortably, and then from one moment to the other, they had to run away from their house, and they came back and simply found a pile of ashes. Whew. That's why the material world is like that. Any minute, everything can go up in smoke. All of our expectations, money, friends, possessions, or anything, our beauty, our strength, our intelligence, everything can be extinguished except for the blazing fire. It spreads the moon's rays that make the white lotus of auspiciousness bloom. So the lotus blooms in the moonshine during the evening, and the moon is very, very cooling. It is the life of spiritual knowledge. It increases the ocean of divine ecstasy. Well, that's an interesting expression. And every moment gives a full taste of ambrosia. Of course, the translation we're used to was nectar, for which we are always anxious. Anyway, so ambrosia. Ambrosia is like, how to say it? It's like some drink that you take that gives you great health and strength, and it's delicious at the same time. Bathing the entire soul. What a poetic way of expressing. That's Sarvatma Snapanam. Of course, Sarvatma means all aspects of the self. Snapanam means a bath. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to Shri Krishna Sankirtan. So the all glories to Shri Krishna Sankirtan is the first sentence in the translation, but it's the last sentence in the Sanskrit here. Cheto Dharpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadvai, the great fire of material existence. So we're going to go over that a little bit more. By performing Sankirtan, one can destroy the sinful condition of samsara, that means the repetition of birth and death, purify the unclean heart, and awaken all varieties of devotional service. It awakens one's love for Krishna and one's taste for the nectar of prema. Ultimately, one attains the association of Krishna and immerses in the ocean of the nectar of service. Here's a glorification of the name. Surita Shrita Janarti Rasaye Ramya Chid Ghana Sukha Swarupine Nama Gokula Mahotsavayate Krishna Purna Vapushe Namo Namaha. O name, I offer repeated respects to you, who are the complete body of Krishna, who destroy the complete body of Krishna. Of course, that's also, what is that? Purna Shuddha Nichana Mukto. complete. Who destroy the suffering of all people who take shelter of you, who are the very form of charming, intense spiritual happiness, a great festival in Gokula. Think about that when you're chanting. Complete body of Krishna, Krishna is there. All the suffering goes away. And you are the form of intense, charming spiritual happiness. You are a festival. If we actually had faith in this, who would stop chanting except for an idiot? By the name, one attains prema for the named Krishna. As Nami, Nama. Nami is the person who is named, and Nama is the name, of course. Prema. What is prema? Unalloyed love. All anarthas are destroyed by Nama Sankirtan. All auspiciousness arises along with joy of prema for Krishna. So, of course, the word Sankirtan means congregational chanting or complete absorbed chanting. The normal translation that we usually use is congregational chanting, because the more people you chant with, the more ecstatic it becomes. The mirror of the heart is cleansed by the name. This is explained in the Bhagavatam. Yamadi bir yoga patai kamaloba hato moho mukunda sivya yatvat tatatmada nasangyati. The Atma, constantly afflicted by lust and greed, will not be satisfied by Astanga Yoga and other paths as much as by direct service to Mukunda, which is the chanting. Bhagavatam 1.6.35. By yoga, the heart is purified and made to concentrate intensely. In many places in Scripture, that path is neglected. So what is the use of just someone said the voice got low? Anyway, there shouldn't be a reason for it. We're just using the same microphone. Let's see, maybe something happened here. All right. Audio settings. Yeah, the audio settings. No, they're all right. Let me just set them higher. That's about as high as it goes. Okay. So, so it's by yoga, your heart is purified and you're concentrating intensely, but it's not, we're talking about Hatha Yoga right now, but it doesn't give you a firm, steady position. Nice karmyam apyachutta bhava varjitam dashobate jnanam alam niranjanam kutapuna shashvara bhadramishvara nachapitam karma yad apyakaranam. Even the stage of jnana without the bondage of karma is not glorious if it is devoid of bhakti to the Supreme Lord. What is the use of having destroyed ignorance? In other words, if there's no bhakti, whether it's jnana or karma or yoga, it's useless. What then to speak of sakama karma, which causes suffering? That means sakama karma means activities which you have from personal desire, both during practice and at the stage of perfection, and nishkama karma, when not offered to the Lord. Nishkama karma means you're doing activities without being attached to them, without, you're just doing your duty and you're not attached to the result. But if it's not offered to the Lord without bhakti, it's useless. That's from Bhagavatam 1.5.12. Another verse from the Bhagavatam, 10th canto. Shreya shatim bhaktim udashyate vibho klishantiye kevala bodha labdhaye Tesham aso kleshada esha shishyate nanyadita stula tushav vagatinam. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. If someone gives up that path and engages in the cultivation of jnana, means the desire for liberation or just attainment of knowledge, he will simply undergo a troublesome process and will not achieve his desired result. As a person who beats an empty husk of wheat cannot get grain, one who simply speculates cannot achieve self-realization. His only gain is trouble. Bhagavatam 10:14-4. In other words, same thing. Without bhakti, whatever one achieves, whether it is liberation, whether it is knowledge, whether it is material acquirements, whatever it is, it's useless. The forest fire is easily extinguished by the name. This is explained in the 6th canto. Nataparam karma nipanda krintanam Mukshatam tirtha padhanu kirtanat Nayat punakarmasu sajate mano Rajastamobhyam kalilam tatonyata. There is no better way for those desiring liberation to cut the bondage of karma than chanting about the Lord, because by chanting the mind does not again become attached to material actions. By other processes, the mind again becomes contaminated by rajas and tamas. Rajas, of course, is the mode of passion. Tamas is the mode of ignorance. Bhagavatam 6:2-46. Now, the reason for that is that all other processes, other than bhakti, even if they're in the mode of goodness, the best they can do is put you or bring you to the mode of goodness. And as we hear the Bhagavad Gita describe the struggle for control between the three modes of nature. Bhagavad Gita tells us sometimes the mode of ignorance is prominent, defeating goodness and passion. Sometimes passion is prominent, defeating goodness and ignorance. And sometimes goodness is prominent, defeating passion and ignorance. So in this way, there's a constant flux. That's why there's also this other verse about a devotee's good qualities. Yashasti bhakti bhagavat kinchana savargana statra savasute sura avrabhaktasya kato mahadguna manovrite nasati davato bahi, which means one who is a devotee gets all good qualities, whereas one who is not a devotee has no good qualities. The reason is that they may exhibit good qualities for some time, but because the modes of nature are acting, they will actually steal one's consciousness away from the mode of goodness eventually and into the other modes of nature, the rajas and tamas, passion and ignorance. There is no other process than the name. As we know, kalo nasteva, gatir anya ta, harinamar, eva kevalam. The Skanda Purana says, Sakrilu charitam yena harir it yaksharadvayam padapari karastena mokshayagamanam pati. Whoever chants the two syllables Hari only once is ready for attaining liberation. I just did it. And here's a beautiful quote about the sweetness of the holy name. The name spreads the moonlight of all auspiciousness. Madhura madhuram metan mangalam mukalanam sakalanigama mulisat palam chitsarupam sakritapi parigitam shradaya keliyava briguvara naramatram tarayat Krishna Nama. The name of Krishna is sweeter than the sweetest, the most auspicious of all things auspicious, the highest fruit in the tree of all the Vedas, and is composed entirely of pure consciousness. Hmm. The name of Krishna, chanted with faith or with inattention, delivers all men. Of course, inattention is not a good idea. That's from the Pravasa Kanda. Hmm. Sweeter than the sweetest, most auspicious thing, the highest fruit in the tree of all the Vedas, and is composed. Here's another description of pure consciousness. The name of Krishna, chanted with faith or with an inattention, delivers all men. Prabhasakanda. So when you hear all these descriptions about Krishna's holy name, don't you want to go out and just chant? I mean, I do. I mean, I would just like to go out and have a kirtan right now and go to the temple room, have a big kirtan. And I'm not going to do it, but at least that's my inclination at this particular juncture. We'll read it one more verse and then we'll take questions. Uh, the name is the life of knowledge. These are all verses that are corroborating Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtika, the first verse of the Shikshashtika. So this is illustrating what Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote and spoke is not something new. Because a devotee, or of course Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, shows by example that they don't invent anything or come up with a new philosophy. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtika, and right now we're dealing with the first verse, is based upon Vedic information. The name is the life of knowledge. That's also part of the Shikshashika. This is explained in the Garuda Purana. Yad ichasi padam jnanam jnanad yat padamam padam tadadrino rajendra kuru govinda kirtanam. O king, if you desire the highest knowledge, and from that knowledge the supreme abode, then chant the name of Govinda with devotion. How beautiful. And then the Devatas pray in the third canto, Datarya Rasmin Bhavayisha Jivas Dapatayena Bihatana Sharma Atman Labande Bhagavam Stavangri Choyam Savidyam Ata Ashayema. O maintainer, O Lord, Bhagavan, since the jivas afflicted by the three miseries do not attain peace within themselves in the mature world, even with the knowledge of Atma, that means knowledge of the self, and knowledge of Krishna, but without bhakti, we take shelter of the shade of your lotus feet. Bhagavatam 3, 5, 40. So now we'll stop and we will take some questions. We left a little less time than we normally leave for questions. So, anybody who has a question, you can raise your hand and I will give you permission to unmute yourselves, or you could type in the chat window. And if you type in the chat window, I'll see your chat and I will be able to answer your questions. Okay, I guess the audio is all right. That was just one devotee who had a problem with the audio. So, Tulsi Craddock, you have a question. What is your question?
My obeisances.
Yeah.
So you read that the fifth verse of the Shastika is when one can. Yeah. So I mean,
One
is
can
that
meditate.
really where
One
one's
gets your
capable?
sit a day. Well, when you're qualified to meditate completely on the fifth verse, I mean, you can recite it, you can think about it, you can meditate on it, but when you really get into the essence, then and you've understood it and imbibed the essence of that verse and the previous verses. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a prerequisite. Just like when you go to the university and you take a course, you cannot enroll in a course unless you fulfill the prerequisites.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I took one course in the university, and they actually put me in an advanced course, you know, some mathematical course, and I hadn't had the prerequisites. They just thought I was qualified because I had such good grades, but because I wasn't really qualified, I just was attending class and I was bewildered. What the heck are they talking about? So I had to drop out of that course because I definitely wasn't qualified. So anyway,
Seems the process of anartha nivritti is working with Krishna to prove that we really want him. As he takes away our anarthas, we want him more.
yeah, I mean, first, yeah, you have to be humble. The prerequisites like humility and Anam Sundarim, like that. You have to give up your desire for wealth, followers, and in your case, Sundara. I always wondered in that verse that Sundarim, but actually, anyway, actually, most of the ladies, unless they have, anyway, you understand, they actually want some Sundaras. But then it also could apply to the fact that we think ourselves to be uh, Purushas, and as Purushas, everything else is a Sundari to us. Anyway, so it's like a metaphorical sense. Okay, one other question I want to answer. Daya Radhika asks, can you please clarify the part where it said that Krishna's pastimes are not present in the Shikshashtika, but if you chant the Shikshashtika, the pastimes will appear? They're not uh, written out in the Shikshashtika. In other words, they're not elaborated on or spoken about in the Shikshashtika, but they're implicit. There's the difference between explicit and implicit. They're not explicit, they're not mentioned. The Krishna's pastimes of dancing with the gopis are not mentioned, obviously, but they're implicit. If one reads, and also one will see that the Shikshashtika is Radharani's prayers to to Krishna. So that's implicitly, which is dealt with in the last chapter of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Okay, we can take one other question. Krishna Priya, real quickly, because it's time to go almost.
Thank you, Gurudev. My question is, so we know in Jaiva Dharma, there's uncle and the devotee, and they're both being trained. But then it came to the point that one of them was in Sakya Ras and the other was in Madhurya Ras.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the fifth verse of the Shashastika, would someone in Sakya Ras, how would they
Yeah,
relate?
well, anyone in any one of the rasas, at least beginning with servitude, can relate to all the verses. Because certainly the coward boys, they're also pure devotees and ready to take Krishna's chastisement or crush, and they'll always remain faithful.
Yeah.
I think all pure devotees are always faithful to Krishna, regardless of whether he crushes them or embraces them. But the intensity of the gopis is the highest. Okay?
So let's say if one studies the Shastika, but one is in a particular mood of devotional service, then if they hear the Shastika who's studying it from someone who's in a very different mood, that would nourish their devotional life. If
No, no,
that's
no, no. They'll nourish it because if someone's in a particular mood, they can appreciate the other moods. You appreciate. If you're a coward boy, you can appreciate the gopis because you're serving. And if you're a
right.
gopi, you appreciate the coward boys because they're also serving Madhurya Rasa. I mean,
It's
all
all
right,
connected. Like that's
all
what I
right.
thought, but I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, see you all later. It is time to end. I am very strict with the time, so all glories. We'll see everybody tomorrow evening. All glories.